super painful. Like, I remember walking around my house, screaming out loud, literally drooling, because I was in so much pain. I'd move your body. When oh my gosh, when I was going through my divorce, like, I would walk to work sobbing. Owned a business at the time, sobbing at work, barely able to open the store. The only time I wasn't crying was when I went to the gym.
And sometimes you need somebody to be like, hey, that's enough.
Let's go walk around the block.
Like, you need this.
Yeah.
Hello world, it's Nathaniel here with Kicked in the Junk. I'm really excited to share this episode with you today because today I have actually my wife, Emily, on the podcast. She is the most kindest, smartest, most loving person that I've known. Actually, she's been through quite a bit of moments where she's been kicked in the junk by life. And so she shares a few of those, but really the topic today is actually about how to navigate when you have been kicked in the junk and life just hits you so hard. And so we go through a bit of how to navigate that, what that looks like. And hopefully from this you get some tools and you get some value, some things that can just help your life. And if you find value from these podcasts, and this podcast specifically, please like it, share. You can subscribe if you're not already, because we'd love to just hear. And if you have questions, or if maybe you're at a moment right now and you're going through some stuff and you just don't have anybody to reach out to, you can always reach out to us on any of the socials that we have here, or you can message me, or you can go to lifepurposely.ca. And so without further delay, I hope you enjoy the rest of the podcast. Hi, Motherf.
Hi.
Thank you for joining the podcast.
Of course.
I appreciate you and your time, and I always appreciate you, what you do for me. But this is a big one because in today's podcast, as we discussed, we're going to talk about what getting kicked in the junk means to you, and what it actually, some examples of it in life, and then really kind of to look at how to navigate it when it happens.
Totally.
Because we have all these stories of people that get kicked in the junk, and life hits them with these crazy things. So we can pull from that and learn. But today we're gonna discuss, because again, you're an amazing life coach, a nutrition coach, and you're doing some really great things there. So learn from you and have a discussion about how to navigate those things. And when those things do come up, how to move forward, daily habits. Because again, we can learn from our own experiences, which we both have quite a few experiences where we've been kicked in the junk.
Yeah.
So we can learn from our own experiences, but we can also learn from each other as well. So I guess on that note, I've got a few questions, and my first question to you is, what you've been kicked in the junk before? What does kicked in the junk mean to you?
Well, it's kind of like when life catches you off guard. There's something unexpected that you have not handled before. And I mean, there's so many different levels of it, right?
Yes.
There's
a lot.
Ones that like knock you flat back, that are just so life altering. And then there's some that are just like an inconvenience.
Right.
There's different levels and hierarchies to it. But it's to me, it's when you're taken by surprise.
Yeah. And
you don't know how to do it because it's brand new.
Right. That's actually, I like exactly what you said. It's taken by surprise. Right. So I think that really is the big one there. Not just that something hard happened. It's one thing if something hard's happening, it's coming. It's totally different when it's
Well, think
surprise.
about it. No guy. I've heard weird stories of teenage boys who like to punch each other and just for fun, right? But no one, I can't imagine anyone's going to stand there and be like, yeah, kick me as hard as you can straight in the junk. And I'm just going to stand here and take it. And that's what made me think maybe sometimes...
Teenage boys are so dumb sometimes. So I've been there.
Because we're just not, we're just going to leave
we're
that
going
aside.
Use that over. Skip all that.
But I really, I don't think anyone who is in their, quote unquote, right mind. And for me, the right mind is really just a conscious mind. It's someone who is quite aware of who they are.
Yeah.
And when you're like that, you're not just going to stand there and let someone kick you square in the junk. That's why it's unexpected. It's a surprise.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You're not prepared for it.
When life kicks you like that.
Yeah.
So what are a couple examples of when, and I guess let's say that's question one. The question, B of that, or 1B of that is any examples in your life, and then or a couple short examples of your life. I know you've shared some before, but.
Totally. My gallbladder attacks, definitely.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That was like, I didn't even really know what a gallbladder was.
You said it's combined with like giving birth and like being on fire or something. Like it's
no, the pain. Apparently, when I read into it after I'd finally figured out what was going on, I mean, take this with a grain of salt. It was on Google, so
sure, yeah, but
apparently it's akin to giving birth while having a heart attack, like the pain of these. And I've never experienced either of those things.
Yeah.
On their own.
Yeah.
But what I experienced, I wouldn't wish on anybody, because I remember, I mean, I had 5 gallbladder attacks in 1 month.
Yeah.
And I had people telling me, well, just have it removed. And I have not dislike, I would, just a fear of surgeries. I just don't,
Yeah, that's fair.
It's just not something I want to experience.
So that was one of them.
So that was one of them. And, I mean, oh gosh. So, yeah, because that one was so unexpected, right? Like, in pain. Like, what do? You have to research, you have to do the things. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's ones that kick you in the junk that are, it's not like they're unexpected, but they're unwanted. Like a miscarriage, right? Right. Miscarriages happen. They happen quite frequently. Mm-hmm. I think more frequently than people realize, because women are sometimes afraid to talk about them. Right. But I've experienced them. Yeah. And while they're not unexpected, it doesn't take away from the pain of it. I mean, they're kind of unexpected, but you know that it can happen. Right. It's a possibility. So it's not. It's still, But it's still really hard. Yeah. And it's a pretty solid whomp to the old groin area that we're talking about.
Yeah, that's fair. So I guess, because again, I'm going to go back and forth with this, is that to me, getting kicked in the junk, when you get kicked in the junk by life, it's like, yeah, I think you said it so well, actually, to be honest, and I'm just going to piggyback what you said. Yeah, it's getting hit hard with something unexpected. Mm-hmm. And I think you're right that kind of the other side of that is like, okay, you could get hit with something not super hard, but it's really unexpected. Mm-hmm. For example, you have a job loss and you're like, oh, in your head, it's not the end of the world. There's much worse things, but in your head, you've planned this career with this company, whatever. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, boom, you get hit and you're like, holy, it's not obviously it sucks, but it's not the worst thing. Yeah. But it's just so unexpected because, you had this plan set out. Totally. Versus if it was like, oh, again, you take the same scenario and somebody's going to quit in a week and, oh, you got fired. You're like, well, whatever, I don't really care. Well, it's the same. That kind of experience is almost the same thing as like a divorce. Yeah. Whether the divorce was expected, because sometimes you know it's happening, or when it's unexpected, where one party just checks out before the other one. Mm-hmm. I mean, some divorces, they need to happen, right? Some people just aren't meant to be together for that long, and that's okay. Yeah. But there's still a death, right? Yeah. So it's still a kick in the junk, because while it's meant to happen and the separation should happen, mm-hmm. you still had, your nervous system still had an expectation of what your life looked like based on the experiences up until that point, right? You've wired it in. Yeah. Yeah. So that's still, like, even though it's not unexpected, because it has to happen sometimes with a mm-hmm. divorce, right? But it's still a massive change. And I think, as you're saying that, like, oh, it's change, and you can really kind of boil it down into a sentence. It's heavy, I would say, unexpected change, unexpected big changes. It could be expected, but even unexpected or expected big changes. Mm-hmm. Right? That, like, oh, shoot, I knew this was coming. Like you said, knew it was coming, but it's a huge change in my life. Yeah. Even though I know it was coming and I want it. Yeah. Holy shit. Yeah. So I think, that's a really good point. So examples of my life, oh God, I feel like I had so many. These count. Kids when finding I was going to be a dad at 20, that was a bit of a whump. Again, wasn't like angry about it. I was excited, but it was also like, holy crap, I'm 20 years old, I'm going to be a dad. Yeah. My injury when I was playing football, just actually previously to that was a big one because it ended my career and that season. So that was a big one. Mm-hmm. Oh God. Oh, there's been a few. I mean, I know being a trainer and having to change, swapping to different gyms, that was always a tough challenge. Mm-hmm. Divorce, that's always a fun one. That was there's been a few. And again, examples of like where you knew it was coming, but it's still super difficult. And then other ones where you're like, oh, okay, this was, you kind of saw it coming, but
And the interesting
or you
thing
did see it coming, but it didn't hurt as much, not as painful.
Not as painful. And the interesting thing is like the things that we're talking about, these are common.
Yeah.
This is not unique to you. This is not unique to me. Like gallbladder attacks are so incredibly common and a lot to do with people's diets and all that kind of stuff. And divorce is so common, but it doesn't take away from the pain of it for that person. Right?
Absolutely. No, it's still so real, and it's especially in that moment. I think of all those moments at the time. It was like, oh my God, this is the biggest thing on earth.
Totally.
And now I'm like, oh, that was just a stepping stone to get me here.
Yeah.
And a stepping stone to get me here. So yeah, but I think that's the key. And actually, funny enough, that's kind of the next question then for you is, these things come. Everybody's had them, whether you're getting kicked out of your house, whatever it is, job, or life kicks you in the junk. What do you do? How do you move forward?
Oh, sometimes you fall flat on your ass for a while.
And you stay there and you cry.
Yeah, sometimes you get a solid release of tears. You fall into a little bit of a depression. You like, sometimes it just knocks you right back. Right.
And there's nothing to be, because I think this is why a lot of people, because we've talked about this before, is that it's people don't want to open up and share their stories because there's like the shame behind it, and it's almost like, oh well, because I took a lick, now I'm bad. And it's like, no, you're human. Like, yeah, you made some mistakes. I made some stupid mistakes.
Oh God, me too.
So many 100%. during all of those things and
100%.
more. But now it kind of ties into like I said, it's well, I made a mistake. Well, now I'm unworthy, or I'm you have the shame sitting there, and so versus recognizing like, no, you did take a hit, and it's it sucks. You can sit with it for a little bit, right? So
it's such an opportunity to learn, right? Like,
yes,
with the gallbladder thing, like that was my health telling me. Like at the time, it was super painful. Like I remember walking around my house, screaming out loud, literally drooling, because I was in so much pain. There was no relief. And until I did some learning and I realized, if I take apple cider vinegar on the regular, that's helping break down the bile salts. I had to take bitters. I had to cut all fat out of my diet. There was a lot of things I did, but I learned. So what I did was I took this kick in the junk, and it knocked me on my butt for a while. I won't lie, because I didn't know what it was at first. I was in the hospital. Like I went to the ER once or twice because of it, because I had no idea what was going on.
As well.
They finally did an ultrasound, and it was, my gallbladder was pretty messed
Pissed
up.
off, yeah.
Yeah, I was pretty angry. And I could have had it removed. Absolutely. But my healthy fear, quote unquote, fear of surgery, that wasn't really an option for me. It didn't actually enter my brain. I had people tell me you should, and I'm like, but I don't know what this thing is, and what does it do in the body? And once I found out like what the gallbladder does, I was able to come to better terms with it and just change. But up until that point, like I was heavier, right? I was a heavier girl, and not very healthy. I didn't move very much. I never exercised really, and so my body was like, hello.
Good morning.
Knock, knock, knock. Let's readdress here. Let's realign.
So I've heard this before, as it's like, the universe will give you, first it'll give you a nudge, and then it'll be like, hey, come on. and then it's the kick in the junk. Then the universe is like, all right, you're not listening, boof, and then you get hit. And so I think that's what, you probably had a few other along the way, but again, it's, you're just unaware of it at the time. So how, for those people that are moving through any kind of life, what would be things that you would suggest to move through it? Because that's kind of the whole purpose of the podcast, is not just talk about these things, but then how do you move through it? What did you do? What did, like I said, we've had a few other guests and they've shared what they've done. So, and I've even learned from it, which is super cool. So.
No, absolutely. I mean, there's so many different avenues to it, right?
Totally. Yep. And
I think some of the biggest things I ever did was reach out for help.
Okay.
100%. And talk to people. Don't be afraid to talk to people, because it's actually a gift. When you when you share openly, honestly, and authentically, without like, you know, word vomiting and just dumping, right?
Somebody
like,
you trust.
Yeah, you're giving them a gift because you're allowing them to hold space for you. You're allowing yourself to feel a release and feel a support that you may or may not know you need, but we actually all need it.
Yeah.
We all need a community. We're not in this alone.
Yeah.
Society is, I don't know what is going on in the world right now that, you know, like, I know so a few years ago I had 3 jobs, I think, at one point. It was right when I met you.
Yeah.
4 or 5, I
4
don't know.
years ago, yeah.
Yes, whatever it was. And I felt like, I remember I was like, oh, I'm so busy, I'm so important.
Yeah.
I had like very little downtime.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't want to be so busy. You know, I want to go sit in the garden sometimes or go lay on the beach.
Yeah, just be.
Yeah, and I think that when you're having, sorry to bring it back, when you're going through some of these things and reaching out for help and allowing that person to hold space for you, you're giving them a gift because we all want to help. It's in our nature as humans to want to help.
Yes.
It's been kind of numbed. It's been dumbed down a bit.
Yeah.
But
generally speaking, I'd agree most people are good.
Oh,
a good side. There, you know, there's the oddballs, but
100%.
most people really want to be be the good person, right?
Yeah, no,
and give them an opportunity to be that person.
And also allow for your own strength to come out.
Yeah.
And allow for yourself to have some accountability for where you are. I mean, not every instance we can help. Some of them happen to us, like a car accident.
Right. Yeah.
You know, there's. But
you look at, like, again, Brandon and Devend and those guys that did have medical and physical issues, and it was like from car accidents and from a motorcycle accident. They did have family to rely on, and they did have people reach out and help, right?
No, absolutely, because we need community. We need each other.
Yeah. And
you're not alone.
Yeah. We're not meant to walk this earth alone.
No, goodness, no.
Right.
And you are not the only, like, something I reminded myself of. I mean, this was through my panic attacks, but it's very lonely, right? But once you realize, oh my gosh, do some research, you're like, anxiety, panic attacks is so incredibly common. It's scary and kind of sad.
Yeah.
But then you realize you're not alone, and it takes some of the burden off of you.
Yes. Because that's the worst place to be in is that low moment when you get kicked, right? And you're in that down time and you feel alone. Yeah. Right? I've heard that, like, that's the definition of hell, is like when you're in that low and there's nobody around. Yeah. Whereas if you have like 2 or 3 other people that are just there, and they, you know, sometimes they can pull you up, sometimes they can't, but even if they're just there, then it's like, okay, right, I got somebody with me. I got my sister, I got my brother, I got, you know, whoever, right? Somebody that's just even sometimes I've seen it's even as something as simple as just like a message, like, hey, you know, as much as we have our own views on technology, sometimes there is some value being like, right, getting that message, that random message from somebody you haven't talked to in 5 years, being like, hey, I see you. Yeah. Right, I see that you're going through this, and if you want to talk. And they may never reach out, but just to, you know, extend that hand, right? Totally. Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I think I definitely agree. So, for me, you know, things that I had to really, like, analyze this question, because this is kind of a tough one, but it was, you know, there's so many different areas, right? And there's so many different things, but to look at, like, overarching principles. Right? And for me, the big one was, because we've talked about this before, and you're like, oh, you're so good at, like, just moving forward. And I'm like, yeah, like, how? Like, why? Why do I not get caught up by things? And I realized for me, I always had a compelling future. I always had something that I'm moving towards. So even when it was, you know, with football, I was like, okay, well though, to be honest, that was one of the toughest times, because I didn't have a future. Right. I was like, oh, wait a minute, football's done. What am I doing? A third of my life is gone. Oh my God, what am I doing? And I was like, okay, right, I can transition. There's God. Okay, now I got parent. Okay, this is coming. Okay, now parent. Wait a minute. That totally changes things. But finding, okay, so then that, you know, those things sparked me to starting my fitness career, right? So it gave me motivation to do that. So so definitely I always think no matter the scenario you're in, having a compelling future. You got a divorce, great. Okay, what's the future going to look like? You job loss, or do you start your own business? Whether, injury, like
you don't always see it right away though.
No.
And this is where your gift lies, because like when you're in a divorce, sometimes you can't even comprehend it.
You can't see the muck. You can't see
through the muck.
Yeah, it's messy, it's
and that's
gross,
where the
it's
compound effect comes into place. So like going through some of those hard things, and say you learn to journal, and I advocate for journaling. It got me through some pretty heinous moments, but and I was seeing a therapist at the time, and she had me write down, like, I think it was 7 different things. I am intelligent, I am beautiful, I am playful, all these things. And I would write them every single day in my journal, and I didn't believe it, but I would write them, and I'd write other things, and I'd just still be depressed. It was still so hard until it wasn't, because these little things that you're doing, you don't see the light, but they're compounding on themselves. It is wiring itself into your nervous system, but it takes time.
Yes.
It takes time.
It does, and you gotta be patient. And it's funny, because that's actually the next question. You're jumping the gun a bit, but it's good. No, it's good. So yeah, like I said, having a compelling future. Yeah. For me, it was always about self-care. Yeah. So like, okay, I know what I want, or if I'm not sure, and knowing what you want makes it easier.
Knowing you deserve it too.
Knowing you deserve it, totally. But even if you don't know what you want, it's having habits in place, and having, self-care in place. So physically, no matter what, through all those things. And it's funny, the times that I think of the lowest, when right after the divorce, and when football ended, whatever, those are the times I wasn't exercising. Oh. Yeah, I can't remember for whatever reason, but I wasn't. It's like, I don't want to work out, tired from football, and it was just so exhausting, and I wasn't exercising. So again, tipping down, mentally, I definitely advocate for everybody meditating. Again, we have a workshop. That's huge. It's like, for me, it's like clearing the glass. It's setting the table. It's cleaning. It's house cleaning. It's mental house cleaning, right? Amongst all the other things it can be, but for the, if you took it to the very lowest level, I would say it's mental house cleaning. And then emotionally, making sure you have, if there's things you need to work through, actually allowing yourself to feel them. Like you said, sit with them. In terms of my notes here, action. So that's kind of, for me, to move through it, is making sure you are doing something about it. Because how many people do you know, and you've talked to quite a few people on this, it's like, I'm whatever scenario. And there's like, okay, well, what do you want to do? Oh, well, excuse, reason, whatever. And not to like point fingers.
I've done it.
And we've all done it.
I've done it.
We're all guilty of it.
100%.
But on the outside looking in, you're going like, if you just take some actions, you can move through this.
I know, but it's so easy to see that on the outside.
It's easy to see on the outside. Yeah. And so this is what I'm saying, is like finding something little that you can do.
100%.
Whether,
if I could go back and tell Emily in her 20s, who was eating massive bowls of pasta, chips, giant bags of 5
Don't you hate on pasta?
I love pasta.
Don't you hate on big bowls of pasta?
It's true. You eat massive bowls of pasta. It's impressive. But that's what I used to do. Yeah. And I'm not hating on pasta. I still love pasta. But when you're not moving, and you have a low mental state, like,
you're just, it's more compound.
It's more compound negative. In the negative way. Yeah. If I could go back and tell Emily in her 20s just to go for that walk. Yeah. Just turn off the TV. You don't need to watch 6 hours of TV a day. But
then, see, there's a key. There's little actions.
Little ones.
Little actions, and that's totally fine. So, and then the last thing, and you actually already said initially for me, so in terms of moving through these low times, is finding support. Yeah. Reaching out. Yeah. Talk to somebody. Guys are not good at this. No. Terrible. But guys, reach out to somebody if you need to. You can reach out to me. Message me. I had somebody message me recently, and it was amazing. I'm looking right at the camera because I want them to realize, please do this, because I love it and I appreciate it, and I'm there for you.
100%. And I feel sad for men in this, because men have deep feelings, just like women. They're different. Yep. But that doesn't mean that they feel less.
No, it's been trained.
Men have been trained to feel like you're not allowed to reach out. It's you're not a man. Just deal with it and move on. Yeah. Or, toughen up, or blah blah blah. It's like,
It's so funny, because you're right. And then on the flip, we talked about this earlier, is that on the flip, when you do have these scenarios where, not to dive into that side now, but you do have the scenarios where it's like, oh yeah, don't be a pussy, don't say that, oh, you can't cry. But then on the flip, getting celebrated for your vulnerability, but don't be that vulnerable. So it's like this like weird,
so confusing.
It's this weird thing. So
yeah. Whole different topic. I get it, which I would love to talk about because I'm diving into the idea of this divine masculine. But another time.
I love it.
But it's so fascinating.
So again, for me to recap, it was like you said, have a compelling future, self-care, mentally, physically, emotionally,
nutritionally,
taking actions, and then having a support. So, is there any other habit, or is there any other things you think would help on that note before we move to the next question?
Daily habits, you mean?
Sorry, I'm just how to move through it.
Oh my gosh! Like I said, there is so many tools out there.
Yeah.
So many tools, and that's why one of the best things you can do is reach out for help.
So then, I guess to tie into this, because this is the next question. So then, in terms of, because we already talked about it, the daily habits. What are some daily habits or tools that somebody can use then, if they are in this moment of low, that anybody can do and that's easy? Like the lowest hanging fruit.
Your body.
Ooh.
Move your body. When oh my gosh, when I was going through my divorce, like I would walk to work sobbing. Yeah. Owned a business at the time, sobbing at work, barely able to open the store. The only time I wasn't, even though like I was not meant to be with my ex. The divorce absolutely was needed to happen, but it was still a death, like I talked about earlier.
Yes.
But the only time I wasn't crying was when I went to the gym. And I was at a group fitness class. I'd never done gym before, ever. Like really, ever. So it was brand new for me, but I found that even though I was uncomfortable there, didn't know what I was doing, didn't know the movements, could barely lift any weight. Yeah. It was the one time where a shift was happening in my body that I didn't even know was happening. Move your body because there's so many benefits to it because you're increasing your serotonin, you're lowering your cortisol. Yes. You're getting the pride of accomplishing something. Yes. If you can get off your butt, and I mean that with love because sometimes it's hard to do it.
And sometimes you need somebody to be like, hey, that's enough.
Let's go walk around the block.
Like, you need this.
Yeah.
And I think, again, I'm not saying everybody go out there and just call anybody out that needs it.
No, goodness no.
But sometimes you do need somebody that you care about or, that loves you or trusts you to be like, hey, this is what you need to do. If you don't, these things can happen. So I definitely agree with you. And it's funny, they say it's like you change your state or change your body, change your state. Right, move your body, your state's gonna shift. Things are gonna move, right? Because like you said, you have the serotonin, the cortisol is low. Like all these amazing hormones are going through your body. So I think that's a great tool. Yeah, move your body. And there's a thing that like people seem to think with change. This is kind of a bit of a rabbit hole, but you have to come up with a strategy, right? I need a strategy to change, and that's gonna change my story, and then I'll be in a better state. Yes, it's like okay, you're relying on a circumstance to make you happy. Yes. Imagine if you flip that. We've learned about this, right? Yeah. And it completely changed things for me. You change your state. Yes. You change your state. Move your body. Dance. Make a silly noise. Make yourself smile. That can change your story. Yeah, I was just going to say, yeah.
Once your story is changed, you can come up with some healthy strategies because you're clear-minded. Yes. When you're not clear-minded, it's much harder, and I've been there. So many of us have been there. Yeah. There's no recrimination here. There's no blame, there's no shame, there's nothing. It's just, we have to hold each other with kindness when we're going through struggles. Yeah. And everyone handles them differently. Yeah, that's true. Like, I don't handle things the same as you. You just mentioned it. Yeah. Because I've said to you, like, how are you able to get through that so bloody quickly? Yeah. Where it takes me a fair bit longer. Yeah. And then sometimes it pops back up once or...
That's okay. That's just part of it, right? It's true. And... No, I love that, and I think that's I'm all about low-hanging fruit, because it's easy and anybody can do it, and it doesn't take a lot of effort.
It gets the ball rolling.
And it gets the ball. It's momentum. And it's momentum, and I love what you just said. You said, we're trying to get these strategies down. Okay, well, I did the gym before, but if I added this strategy, it did this new thing, and I did this, and I'm going to try this, and I'm going to do all these different other methods that are out there, and it's like, just start with just so overwhelming. Like my head hurts just talking about it. Let's just start with something. Yeah. And then once you have the habit and you're like, okay, you're in it, reach out to a professional. Ask for help, or even just to ask some questions. 100%. There is tons of trainers out there. There's tons of fitness coaches. There's tons nutrition coach, life coach out there that will, even if just have the question, hey, I was thinking of doing this, what do you think? If they don't help you out, I don't think they're a good coach in my opinion. And I'm sure if they can't answer a question for you, then maybe you find something else. But they will. Most of them will. And that's okay. It's okay, because then you get to learn.
And it's okay if you fall again.
Yeah, but it's just, it's a part of the learning, right? Which is such a great thing. So for me, a tool, I got a few, but I think you kind of said earlier in one, so I'm going to have two to this. One, I've talked about this a lot before, is meditating. I know I always preach meditating, but it was such a game changer. Like it really, really changed my life in such a drastic way.
And I've actually helped clients with your story of meditation, because I have some clients who are men, and it's when I talk about meditation, they're really shy about it. I'm like, well, my husband meditates daily, and he's a football player, he's a football coach, he's like masculine male. And they're like, wait, what? I'm like, yeah, no, there's no gongs, there's no, even though there can be, I have nothing against that. There's different levels of meditation, but there's different applications. So yeah, when you talk about it, it's because it matters and because it works. Absolutely.
And the thing I liked about it the most was that doing it is, like I said, it's mental house cleaning. So a lot of people out there I've seen, and you can see those people, and you've been around those people that have all these thoughts going on in their head. They're going, and they can't.
I am one of them.
Yep. Right. And it's so up, so in their head, and all these things going on, and any little random thought comes in their head and they chase it, versus being present, and versus being like, wait a minute, just because that one person said that little comment, that was just that little comment, like I can, I'm present right now, I can tell it's different. The scenario is different, so you're able to see things for what they are easier.
When you're present.
And when 100%. You are meditating. And I find that I have to do this daily. For me, it was with, I started doing it because of my kids, because I found I wasn't present with them, and I would get angry easily, and I was not the person I wanted to be, and I wanted to change. I didn't think meditating would help. I didn't even do it. It was until after I started doing counseling and all that. So in terms of lowest hanging fruit that anybody can do, take 5 minutes, take 10 minutes, just literally shut off the phone, close your eyes. You can listen to a guided one. I suggest it. You can just sit there in silence. Whatever it is. And it's going to be so hard. I know you're going to be like, oh my God, I got stuff to do. And this. But do it for 10 minutes. Tell me how you feel after. Guaranteed you'll feel better. Guaranteed. Almost every time. And you could have these things come up. These little emotions. I start feeling this. And that's probably because you need to work through that. You could have a panic. I need to panic. Just because you're probably overworked and you're overstressed and you're doing too much.
And your sympathetic nervous system is just like
and you're
exhausted
because it's always firing, so we need to let's down regulate that and up regulate our parasympathetic, right, the rest and digest. And that's such an easy tool.
I actually do that with my clients at the beginning of sessions. We will take a moment and do probably 4 to 5 rounds of deep breathing together.
I love that. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
that's who doesn't feel better? I've never met anybody, even just, again, taking those moments and breathe. I've done that, in between meetings that were stressful or phone calls that were stressful, and you don't have time to sit there and like shut everything off, but take a few moments and just breathe. So that's, for me, that is a super easy, low-hanging fruit anybody can do anywhere, almost anytime. And then the second one being just practicing gratitude.
Oh, huge.
And because what it does, it puts things into perspective. So again, for me, it was like, okay, I'm going through this divorce, and right now this is super tough, and I don't know where I'm going to live, and I'm living in this spare room, and this sucks, and this, and all these things. But then it was like coming back to, okay, what do I have that I can put my focus on, right, and talk about, and appreciate. And it was like, okay, I have my arms work. Check. I can move there's people that don't have arms. Okay, awesome. I can eat food, and I don't need any help to eat food. I can, I can shower. I can do everything I need to do in the bathroom by myself. I don't need any help.
Well, it's even, it's even simpler than that. It's even, I can go to a tap and turn on water and get a cup of water.
Yeah.
A lot of people in the world don't have that.
Totally. Or not to, even here, where we live, we get tons of smoke sometimes where it's so bad that you can't even be outside 10 minutes without getting a headache. So it's like, oh my God, we have clean air. That's amazing. So the point is just putting Just look at any little thing, big or small, and be grateful. And I'm not saying to ignore your problems, but I'm saying just to bring you back to a state so that way you can handle this thing that came up.
Well, because practicing gratitude, it's very difficult to be thinking of things that you're grateful, things that you're grateful for, even in those dark moments.
Yes.
It's hard to think of things you're grateful for and be angry and sad at the same time.
You can't.
It's like pretty much physically impossible.
Your brain can't do it.
Yeah.
And so, and what it does is it allows you to put, instead of having your attention on this problem, oh my God, the divorce, or oh my God, my job, or oh my God, whatever it is, and you're putting all your attention to that.
Or the fear of I eat, like for me, like if I was so afraid to eat for a while, which actually kind of started diving into my eating disorder again with my gallbladder stuff. I was so afraid to eat because I didn't know what would trigger the pain.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, absolutely. So practicing gratitude in that moment, I wouldn't have been able to be afraid. I could be like, okay, I'm so grateful that
you even have food.
Yeah, that I have food.
Yeah.
That my body was talking to me.
Totally.
That, that I now am learning ways to deal with it, right? There is so much to be grateful for, and it pulls you out of that moment.
Totally. And I think that's so, and it's so easy.
Mm-hmm.
It's so easy, and I've used it time and time again when I was getting depressed and I was having these things come up. And it just changes things. It's like, I can't explain it. For anybody who's done it and knows it, they're like, yeah, I got you. Mm-hmm. I know it. But for those people that haven't, it's like changing the compass. It's changing, when you realize you're off course, sometimes you don't realize you're off course until you're so close to your destination. Oh my God, I don't want to be there. Right? But taking that time to redirect that is what it is. It's changing your course. It's changing the direction.
And for someone who and you know me, I'm not much of a gamer, but I just thought of a gamer. If you got a cheat code, that relief with like.
Yeah. Oh, if I do this, I can cheat. I can just use this cheat code if I can't beat it.
Gratitude's like a cheat code.
That's a really good example.
Because it takes you out of that moment of stress because you're just, gratitude is goodness, right? Yeah. Gratitude is.
And it's whole picture.
Yeah. And
unfortunately, that is the downside of, and it's a protective mechanism because sometimes we do need, again, a good example is if you're being attacked by someone, or you're trying to get out of a burning building. I'm so grateful it's warm in here. And no, you need to get out of there.
No,
and it's putting all your attention to that state.
That's A-okay to be in fight or flight, man. Let's go.
And it's there for a reason.
Yeah.
But again, it's when it's up here. It's just when it's all mental and emotional.
So exhausting.
And it is. It's exhausting, but it gives you a break.
Yeah.
It gives you a chance to just, again, it's the cheat code.
Yeah.
It is a great example.
The mental cheat code.
It is. That is such a good one. I like that.
Yeah.
So the last question then, and it kind of ties in what we were just talking about, but how do you avoid these things?
The kicked in the junk moments?
Again, not that these things will come. Life will throw these things at you, but how do you avoid them? Or how do you do your best to just mitigate the possibility of these?
Well, I think a lot of it, there's some you can't mitigate. Like,
it's very true.
Actually the gallbladder attack you could. Like if you ate a healthy lifestyle and moved your body more, you probably have a healthy gallbladder.
Yeah.
I wasn't healthy.
Yeah.
I really wasn't. So there is, absolutely. But that comes with presence.
Yes.
When you're present within yourself.
Ooh, that is a good one.
You don't eat as much bad food because irregardless of what it does to your body and put on weight and glucose and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You feel better when you eat better food.
Yeah. I
didn't have when was the last time you ate like a takeout burger and felt like really good after?
Not very many.
Not very many times.
Yeah.
But when you do it so much, it's just your body's used to it.
And you just shut off.
And you just kind of shut off. But if you were really present with yourself,
that's a good one.
You would know that doesn't make me feel good. And you would know that when I go out and go for a walk and get fresh air, maybe go out into the world a bit, I feel better.
Yes.
When you're present, you notice those things. And being present, like you talked about, how you get there is through breathing, is through meditation, is through sitting with yourself.
Yeah. And again, exercise. You're present. You can't, it's really hard to exercise properly and actually train and have, I got the TV on and doing all these other multitasking things. That doesn't really work most of the time.
Especially if you're lifting heavy weights, you are 100% focused on where your knees are.
Yeah, where everything is, right?
When you're stacked properly. That's when you trainer, I would say. If you're going to lift heavy,
No, absolutely. and it's so funny you said that, because that was actually what I was going to say for that was, being present.
100%.
Right? It's because, and that ties into my advice for not avoiding it, but just recognize. So I said earlier was, the universe, God, whoever, whatever you want, is going to give you, you're going to get these nudges. Mm-hmm. And you might not listen. Then you're going to get like a push. Mm-hmm. And you might not listen. And that's when, boom, something big happens. Mm-hmm. Versus if you're present and you're in tune with your body and aware what's going on, mm-hmm. that nudge, you go, hey, that's different. Right? Or that push, you go, hey, wait a minute, I didn't like that. What's that going on? Mm-hmm. You're able to tune in and feel those things and address those things earlier. So instead of being a big hit, it's like, okay, I need to fix this before it becomes an issue. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, people miss that when you're not present.
Well, and I think presence also ties into being not only present with yourself, but I think when you are present with yourself, it leads to a bigger presence externally.
Yes.
Like we heard a story today when we were at the market, we ran into a friend of mine from way back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
And she is a breast cancer survivor, thank God.
Mm-hmm.
But she is a very present-minded person. She has such a beautiful soul. Mm-hmm. And she told us the story of her cat.
Yeah.
That they rescued this cat. And I think 3 months after getting it, it had smelled a breast, like a lump of cancer in her breast.
Yeah.
But she was present enough to pay attention
to the cat.
And imagine if you were someone who wasn't present, you'd probably, stupid cat, like, get out of here. Yeah. But she was present enough to know that there was, there's something
that's a really good point, yeah.
And that amount of presence and that sense of awareness mm-hmm. and allowing for like we get so tied up thinking that we have to do it all. We have to be responsible for it all. We have to do this. No, we're a community. Yeah. What do they even say with children? It takes a community to raise a child. Yeah. Children don't need just their parents. Yeah. They need the energy of their grandparents and their aunts and their uncles and their cousins. Yeah. And when you have that sense of presence within self, you let go and you allow for these external applications to affect your life in a good way. Yeah. And you have the presence to push away the bad stuff because they don't feed your awareness.
Absolutely. And to be aware that this is actually a knock or a nudge. Yeah. Right? Again, I think of even just that story, when I heard that, I was like, that's amazing. Like, that's so cool. Yeah. But even on a smaller scale, like in kind of your story, look at, and maybe both times, but look at in terms of the fitness side, it was like, you might have back in that, those times had those nudges and you went, whatever. Yeah. Or you might have had that push and went, no, it's fine. I'll just take an Advil or I'll just take a Tylenol. Or I'll 100%. Take something to numb this pain, numb this warning sign. Mm-hmm. So it's really, to kind of recap it, it's really paying attention to just, it's not jumping. Not a paranoia, no, but it's just being aware that, okay, this is something here. Do I, okay, my stomach's hurting. Does that mean I need to go to the hospital right now and panic? No. Do I need to maybe just check in and go, okay, what did I eat? Yeah. Did I get enough water today? Did I exercise? Did I do those things that are going to put me in the best possible state to handle these issues? Mm-hmm. If you check, okay, then maybe you should talk to a professional or just, inquire. Mm-hmm. If no, well, maybe you should address those things too. Yeah. So, yeah, it's kind of funny too because, if you look at how to handle these moments, mm-hmm. Those practices tie right into how to avoid or make when they do come much easier. Yeah. Right? Having, I even say like having a compelling future, mm-hmm. right? Knowing that, okay, I want to be healthy and be clear on what I want. Mm-hmm. Having, self-care, having all these things actually tie into.
It's hard though sometimes because especially for people who maybe have not the highest self-confidence. Yeah. Self-care, like for me, it still worked for me. I still feel selfish. Even though it's one of the most selfless things you can do because once you are fully just encompassed in who you are, you have so much more to give.
Oh, I would 100% agree, especially with you. I say it's because it's almost funny because I know like I've noticed it when your cup is full, mm-hmm. and again it's like because you've and to list the things, the exercise and we're outside and mm-hmm. and you're doing these things and you're doing all the extras, your meditation, whatever. when we go around and interact with people.
We're taking time for us.
We're taking time for us, absolutely.
That's huge.
You're the nicest human ever when we're out in public. And it's not that you're not that person, it's just you're more, like you are that person, but you're like amplified, you know what I mean? Like hook up the batteries and you're just, and I'm all like, dang, like, holy Jesus, right? But it's good because it amplifies who you are. Mm-hmm. And it helps to handle those not so nice things of who we could be.
Yeah. And Frick, I still have moments, like what was it, last week I had a moment, yesterday, I don't know, we all have moments where we're a bitch or a dickhead, right? But that doesn't mean that's who we are.
Yes. It just means that's who we're being in that moment.
Yeah.
And I'd say that when you're that person, when you choose that more.
Mm-hmm. That becomes, yeah.
You know, a large chunk of your life is that versus not, right? And unfortunately, we've all been there, but that's kind of my thing. Well, I think a lot of people is to try to, and I hope a lot of people is to try to be just the best version of themselves, right? So, that's awesome. Well, yeah. Any other things you'd think we would want that we missed there, or do you want to add to?
Oh goodness, we could talk about this forever.
That's true.
There's so many different facets and so many different avenues and so many different tools and so many things. I think one of the biggest things to remember when you've been kicked, right? Mm-hmm. When you're down and when you're out, is you're not alone.
Yeah.
You are not alone, and you can almost guarantee someone else has been through it. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't take away from your experience. It's not meant to belittle your experience. It's meant to give you relief because because it is so lonely sometimes, and that people want to help.
Yeah.
People want to help.
Absolutely, and I think that should be
It's sad that we have to say that.
Yes, no, totally, but it's because there's so many reasons why that's out. More negative travels. We can talk about that for a while, but yeah, there is a lot of people, and even people that have interviewed on this and that we've talked and stuff after, like, man, they're so excited, right? Because they realize, like, oh, it's my story is actually helping, or their story actually helped a bunch of people, and or even just to bring them like some, even if it's just a moment of goodness,
even a moment of familiarity where they get a bit of. Yeah. It's not just me, just something falls off their back.
Yeah, right. Okay, these people have been through some crazy stuff too.
Step. It helps you move that little bit forward. Mm-hmm. Maybe if you hear someone say something that you resonate with, that you felt so alone about, it allows you to have that moment of rest, and you step outside and you breathe some fresh air for a minute.
Yeah.
Like, that is an achievement. When you're in a really dark place, sometimes that's the best you can do in that moment. But holy shit. Yeah. Like, way to go.
Absolutely. No, that was thanks, Emily. That was really good. You had some really good stuff there, and I think I like I said, my hope with all this is just that you can, like I said before at the very beginning, you can learn from your own experience, which is great, but then you have to go through it, or you can learn from someone else's experience, and then you can pick it up and you don't have to go through it. And we've both had both. Right? So and that's my hope with all this, is that somebody just resonates and that realizes, like, hey, these things that come your way, you can do it. And
100%.
Absolutely reach out.
Yeah.
If you don't have somebody to reach out to, you can always reach out to us.
100%.
Even just an email or a text or message on whatever, one of the socials, just to be like, hey, I've had it actually a couple times now, and it's been motivating for me too, to hear, like, okay, right, like, it's just something good happening. So absolutely don't be afraid to do that.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks, my love.
Thanks.
Did you hug?
We do.
We always hug it.
We always hug.
So thanks again for listening to this podcast. I know I really love this one. Again, how to navigate these things is so big. I really hope you saw value in these tools that we're giving you. And again, if you don't have anybody to talk to and you don't feel like you have a community or anybody that can support you, please reach out. Even if you just want to email, or you can message us just to talk about some of these things you're going through, and even just have somebody in your corner. Just know that we're in your corner, and I know that you can do this. And just like I said, if you're not listening, or if you're not following, you can follow, you can like, and share it with somebody if you found value in this and you think they might find value in these podcasts. So thanks again, and I'll catch you on the next one.